We're returning to Premier League action this week as Chelsea take on Nottingham Forest in a home tie at Stamford Bridge. But how will each team set up? What is the path to victory for Chelsea? Let's get right into this. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from MonoCFC and let's not delay any further. Like always, I'm going to be predicting the lineups that I believe will play and show how I believe each team could set up tactically. So without further ado, let's firstly look at our opponents for this match. NOTTS Forest are currently sitting in 14th in the Premier League table, just 1 point behind Chelsea. They've won one game and lost their remaining 3 in all competitions, but have looked very decent in a few of those defeats, namely taking Manchester United to the brink before eventually giving up the lead after they went down to 10 men. They have gone absolutely crazy these last 2 years in terms of signing players, so much so that predicting a lineup for them correctly is near to impossible. Let me just quickly rattle off the list of players they have brought in this window: Anthony Elanga, Chris Wood, Murillo, Nicolas Dominguez, Vlachodimos, Matt Turner, Nuno Tavares, Ola Aina, Remo Freuler, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Gonzalo Montiel, plus our star boy Andrés Santos on loan. They have an enormous squad of 35 players and they don't look to be done yet either, with deadline day yet to finish and them in for a few other players. Looking at the head-to-head between the two clubs, we can see that last season Forest were one of the only teams we didn't lose to, and overall we have had the majority of the success between the two sides in recent history. You have to go all the way back to the late 90s to find a victory over Chelsea for the Nottingham outfit. That being said, their squad is now vastly changed from that team we played last season, so perhaps they'll have a few new tricks up their sleeves to try and take a victory in this one. So how will they plan on trying to achieve that? Let's look at the team. NOTTS Forest, managed by Steve Cooper, are a team that prefers to use a 5/3 at the back formation, so I'll be putting them into a 3-4-3, though I think it will function more as a 5-4-1 in game. First up in goal, I'm going to be putting in Matt Turner. I don't think the newly arriving Vlachodimos will take his place, as he started the campaign rather well and the Greek likely needs more time to settle in. For the back 3, it's going to be a slight rotation from the last game in the league. The one player returning to the back line is ex-Wolves defender Willy Boly on the right hand side. Captain Joe Worrell has served his red card suspension that he got in the last game, but probably won't start due to the sudden tragic passing of his uncle Graham Saville, a police sergeant who died on Tuesday after being struck by a locomotive whilst tending to a man on the train line. Some things are way more important than football, and for Joe's sake I hope he takes his time before returning to the pitch. Instead, Moussa Niakate will most likely slot into the central role, with the left-sided centre-back role being filled by Felipe after starter Scott McKenna suffered an injury to his hamstring. Moving into the midfield, let's start on the right-hand side where ex-Spurs defender Serge Aurier will remain. The two central midfielders are incredibly hard to pick considering the amount of signings they have made here, but we know that Andrés Santos can't play against his parent club at least. That being said, I think the obvious inclusion here on the right of the two is the man who's becoming ever important to NOTTS Forest lately, Ryan Yates. His partner from the last game, Danilo, is currently out injured, so I think this could mean an inclusion of ex-Palace destroyer Cheikhou Kouyaté. On the left hand side is one of the more obvious additions to this Forest team, ex-Chelsea man Ola Aina. Finally, the 3 forwards. With Brennan Johnson looking very likely to leave as of recording, I don't expect him to be included in this one, and the replacement for him has been very good in recent matches, so on the left hand side is going to be Anthony Elanga. On the opposite side, but playing more so as a cam in this one, is young star Morgan Gibbs-White. That leaves one spot left for the striker position, and this one chooses itself. The man who's got 3 goals in as many games, up steps the very impressive Taiwo Awoniyi. In terms of how Forest will play, it seems like we'll be treated to much of the same from the last few games. They are another team that will be pragmatic and sit back, but have electric players on the counter and will use their pace in behind to try and fashion chances. They are a pretty tall team like West Ham were, so we'll have to be defensively astute and not give away any unnecessary free kicks or corners. Willy Boly in particular has been very good for them in the air recently, and Morgan Gibbs-White is a great set piece taker as well. The one thing to note is that their wingbacks are both incredibly offensively minded rather than defensively minded. They both like to push up high, and a lot of Forest's chances when in possession are fashioned from crosses from either Aina or Aurier, more often than not coming from the right hand side from Serge Aurier, who is another one of the players that is in good form. One criticism I've seen from Forest fans is that Steve Cooper sets this team up too defensively at times. They have a lot of talented attack-minded players, but the system and style he employs is a rather negative one. As we can expect from most teams nowadays, despite the conservative approach, they will still press us centrally and try and win the ball back in order to spring transitions, as again, they are very deadly from switchovers of play. Apart from that, there isn't much more to be said that I haven't already discussed in my West Ham and Luton Town previews. These teams are all stylistically similar, and Forest will concede a lot of the ball in this one and try and shut us out, especially after watching that encouraging performance from Wimbledon in the Cup, who limited our attack for the majority of the game without the ball. The two teams will match up rather similarly, almost man for man because of the shape that Chelsea plays nowadays, and speaking of the Blues, from up north to down south, let's talk about Chelsea. But real quick, if you're enjoying the content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. Cheers. Starting with the formation, I think we are definitely going to continue this hybrid 4-3-3/3-4-3 formation, but perhaps with slightly different players. For the purpose of the lineup, I'll be putting us into a 4-3-3. So, first up in goal, I'm going to be putting in Robert Sanchez. He played pretty well in the last game and I don't see any reason for him to be dropped. This could be a toss-up with Petrovic, who is now ready to play, but I don't expect any changes here. For the back four, this will be exactly the same as we have been playing so far this season. Malo Gusto plays at right back as James is still out injured and will be for an extended period of time. The two centre backs will be a pairing of Axel Disasi on the right with Thiago Silva on the left, and Levi Colwill will play at left back as his injury was not as bad as first thought and he should be ready to get back on the pitch. In the midfield, I'm going to do something a little odd. Every time a player has come into this team and I've said that it's, quote, too early for them to play, they have then played in the next game. That being said, I'm going to be going for a rogue shout and putting in Chelsea's new signing Cole Palmer on the right, who will operate more as a cam in actuality. He comes in for Conor Gallagher, who was the only centre mid not rested in the Cup, and could possibly be rotated out for some rest. In the centre, I'll be putting in Moises Caicedo, who now looks fully up to speed and ready to boss this midfield as he did in a Brighton shirt. And finally, on the left hand side, I'm going to be obviously putting in Enzo Fernandez. In truth, I could see Palmer and Enzo swap sides here, but I feel as if Palmer is more suited to cutting inside onto his favoured left foot from the right. Obviously, the more likely scenario is Palmer coming off of the bench and Gallagher starting once more, but I thought I'd mix things up a little for this one. For the three attacking players, I will be sticking to the same three that we have been playing. Raheem Sterling is a guarantee to start on the right hand side, and I hope to see his great form continue. Now that Poch has seen what Noni Madueke can do in the Cup, I expect him to put more faith into him to come off the bench to replace Raz later on. Over on the left, I'm going to be putting in Ben Chilwell, who will captain the side. I've come to accept that this left-hand side will always be Colwill and Chilwell, and to be honest, I don't particularly mind Chilwell playing here, as Mudryk is just coming back from an injury and is likely not ready to start, but may come off of the bench. And finally, up top is going to be Nico Jackson. I don't need to justify this selection, do I? Jackson is our number one striker and is the linchpin that holds our attacking play together. One thing to note is that now Mason Burstow has left the club on loan to Sunderland, this spells an opportunity for our new man David Washington, who has all but confirmed he will be included in the squad today. He can play all along the attacking line but is predominantly a striker, and we could see him make his debut off of the bench for Jackson in the latter stages of the game, which would be good. As for how we will play, I think this game will play out very similar to our last few matches, but before I talk on that, it's time for the question of the day. As always, I'm going to highlight some of the comments from the last video, so here are a few responses to the last question of the day. Thanks guys for your continued support as ever. If you want your comment to be featured in the next video, leave your answer to this video's QOTD down below with QOTD at the start. So for this week's question of the day, we'll go for this. Now the transfer window is closed, do you think this finalised team is capable of winning the title, and why? Alright, so how will we play? Well, I almost guarantee we will play this same style that we have in all of our Premier League games so far this season, as I suggested earlier, this hybrid between a 4-3-3 and a 3-4-3. I haven't particularly done a breakdown on this system yet, but I do have one in the works that will likely come out during the international break, so smash that like button if you're excited to see that. I'll obviously go into more detail in that video on the overall tactics and how the system functions as a whole, but for this video I'll keep it pretty short and sweet. First things first, this game will be dictated by which team can get their fullbacks/wingbacks high up the pitch and impacting play. Our system swaps into a 3-4-3 in possession, which will match up 1-to-1 with Forest's own 3-4-3. The difference is, whilst Forest, in my lineup anyway, are playing two rather defensive-minded centre-mids, Chelsea's lineup only uses one in Caicedo and two more attack-minded centre-mids ahead of him. I think we'd find a lot more success trying to play through the centre in this one, as we have more bodies there, but this is reliant on one of our centre-backs, likely Disasi or Colwill, committing slightly further forward in order to occupy one of the wide men so they can't join the midfield and create a 3v3. This role will be more likely done by Gibbs White, who is a natural midfielder, leaving Elanga and Awani up top in a 2. If we can prevent them from doing this, it opens up opportunities for us to pick out a spare man in space in the midfield, especially if Jackson decides to drop deep and create a diamond. Usually I advocate for us playing direct balls through the lines, and I will do so again here. I don't think we'll find as much success in the wide areas except on the counter-attacks when the two wing-backs are committed higher up the pitch, so we should instead opt to try and make line-breaking passes through the centre via Disasi and Colwill. As the opposition team is so tall, I think we'd benefit from playing the ball on the ground and not attempt balls over the top like we have been doing so far this season. Likewise, this goes for crosses if we try to attempt them. You know what I'm going to say here, keep them on the ground. Other than that, the only thing I would like to see tactically from us is to try and set up Forest for counter-attacking opportunities. Let them have some possession and try to win it back and break on them, because they haven't looked comfortable defending fast counters so far this season, and we've become a much better team in terms of breaking quickly, contrary to how we were last season. I reckon this game will be quite close and will largely come down to which team takes their chances and which doesn't. I have a suspicion that this game will be a lot more open than the lineups suggest, and both teams will look vulnerable at times defensively. For a score prediction, I think we'll win this game, and I think we will start to pick up in terms of goal scoring now the players are used to each other and working as a unit, so I'm going to go for 3-2 Chelsea. I just fear that we will suffer against the threat of Awani like we did to Antonio against West Ham, and our defending of set pieces hasn't been great either, so I expect us to concede. I'm going to say that our goals will come from Sterling, Jackson and Chilwell, and the opposition goals will come from Awani and a headed goal by Yates from a corner. But that was just my lead-in match preview for Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these possible lineups in the comment section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from Mono CFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on you Blues.